Alright, hello everybody. It is Mark here from Mark and Adam. Adam is not here. Listen, Adam doesn't live with me. We live in two separate places of dwelling. Yes, we're brothers, but we don't live in the same house. So he's at his house, but right now, he's actually doing the editing. So, Adam, say hello via the magical powers of editing.
Oh, hi. How are you? Hey, how are you? Sorry, I just had my thinking cap on there. That's usually how I edit. I stay up late at night editing these videos for you guys to all watch. This one's on Subbase, so I think he's a really like the lows. Right, so there you are. Back to you.
There you go. Right? So he's here. He's just not here in the room with me. Everybody's, oh, does Adam exist? Where is Adam? Is Adam a mysterious person? Is he an homage to somebody? No, Adam's a person. And you're going to see Adam soon on one of these videos. It's just, I'm making these videos. Adam's not here. Anyway, today we're talking sub bass, right? Sub bass, very important, obviously, in electronic music, very important in music in general. Um, there is nothing better, in my opinion, than big, thick, girthy,
Come again.
powerful sub bass, right? One of my earliest memories of live music was feeling sub bass, and you know, I am absolutely, since that day until now, I'm in love with sub bass in music. It can be difficult to get right, especially in electronic music and how we marry it to the kick and all this kind of stuff. We're not going to talk about that today. Today we're going to talk about some very basic things, and I'm going to show you how to create a very basic sub bass. Now, if you are like me and you have had along your producing journey problems with sub bass, these next couple of tricks are going to be massive for you and will probably really help you just right out the gate, right? Number one, there are magical notes that I call the Goldilocks notes that just work really well for sub bass, right? These notes are E, F, F sharp, and G, right? These are our go-to sub bass notes. They are the notes that hold that good rumble and the buzz and the thickness the best. Sometimes when you use other notes, we struggle to hear them when you start moving them down in octaves. And then there are also notes that kind of lose all the nice rumble, the buzz, the girth, the good characteristics that we want out of sub bass when you move them up an octave. So we are looking for these Goldilocks notes, these notes that are just right. If you haven't read Goldilocks and the Three Bears, press pause, go read that now, come back to the video and we'll talk more sub bass. So Goldilocks notes is what you're looking for. Again, E, F, F sharp, and G. Those are the Goldilocks notes. If you've not been using those and you start focus on them today, after you watch this video, your sub bass is going to be instantly better. What was happening in my journey was if I happened to land on those notes with sub bass, it sounded good. And I thought I was a genius. And I was like, this is great. If it didn't, I kept sort of saying and hearing feedback like, hey man, you need more sub bass in there, or you need to put a sub bass in there. And I say, there is a sub bass in there. No, there's not a sub bass. And it would drive me crazy. It would sound like garbage. And this problem here, if you're having these kind of issues where you just can't get your sub bass right and you feel like no matter what you do, check these notes. This is a fantastic fix. Now, sub bass samples. There are some incredible 808 type samples and all kinds of really cool samples that you can use. Nothing wrong with that. Very, very good. Just make sure you check the key that they're in and do not warp your sub bass samples. When you warp a sub bass sample, it shortens the bass in there. And so you get very kind of quick, like hard bass sounds, and you don't get that nice drawn out buzz. at least that I love in sub bass, right? That's what we want. I love sub bass that when you hear that sub bass, you almost feel like it's just never going to end. You're like, this is just amazing, and I'm just going to sit here under the shower of sub bass, and it's never going to end. You don't want your sub bass being short and not having just that long extension in it. So if you are warping samples, or you're using samples and leaving the warp on by accident, this is another good trick. Make sure they're not warped, and that's going to sound absolutely fantastic. The only drawback to samples is when you start messing with them, you could kind of ruin the characteristics that make that sample so good in the first place. So be careful with what you're doing with samples. All right. Another way to get good sub bass into your music is going to be obviously presets. You know, sound banks can have some incredible presets for sub bass, and they're good and great, and this is a great thing to use. My only problem, and please watch out so that this does not become your problem, is that when you're using sound banks, when it comes to sub bass, it's very easy to start using way too many layers, and then you're layering yourself in mud, and you're not getting what you want from your sub bass. So you think, oh, I have these great sound banks with these great presets, I'll just keep layering them and tweak them as I go, and your sub bass still sounds terrible. It's still very muddy. It's still very like the bad boomy, right? There's bad boom and good boom, but they're bad boom and they're just mud, and then it's a nightmare. And this is a problem that you can easily get into when you're using sound banks and presets. So the last way that you can get sub bass into your music is to create your own. Create one. Get your favorite synth and create one. We're going to talk about that now. I'm going to show you how to make a really fast one, and you'll be able to use this one as a fundamental layer. You're going to be able to use this one and get really creative with it. It's very serviceable, simple to make. Here we go. Sylenth. We have a black Sylenth. This is the MIDI that we're going to use to show our sub bass. It's the drop bass line from our song Night, and it sounds like this. So that's what we're working with. Now, right away we're going to turn the polyphony down to 1. Very, very simple. Now look, we want both waveforms to be sine waves here, right? We are going to go -1 octave on both, 1 voice on each, okay? And we're going to pull the volume back to about 60-ish, 60%. Again, I call these out by percentage. Laugh at me in the comments if you want. That's what I do, right? Filter. We use low pass filter. Keep it at 24 dB and just leave it there. On our mod envelopes 1 and 2, we're just going to kill the sustain. Just going to kill the sustain, right? Let's give this a quick listen and see where we're at, and then we'll move on to part B. So there we go. We're getting there, right? Let's move on to part B. Alright, so part B. Really don't have much to say as far as anything revolutionary. We're going to do the exact same thing that we did on part A. Lower these an octave. Make sure they're both sine waves, right? Give them a voice each. Maybe, not 2 voices, 1 voice. Right? And then pull the volume back to like 60%. The only big difference here is that we are not going to use a filter, right? So there we go. It's pretty simple. We're going to give it a listen, and then I have something that's a little trick if you start getting a lot of clicks and pops and all this. Let's give it a listen. Okay, So you can hear there's some like clicks and pops at the start of each note, right? This can be caused by like low velocity notes. So when you play into the piano, the notes or onto your whatever you're doing, and you have low velocity, you'll get those clips. There's a couple of ways to fix it. You can obviously go into your piano roll and turn the velocity up on that note. A very simple way to fix it is just to add some release here on to the amp envelope A and B, right? So let's start first with part A. You can hear that. So we turn the release up a little bit, we'll go to part B and do the same. And the last thing is you can move the attack up a little bit as well, and that'll really soften those clicks and pops at the beginning. You may want some of those in there. You may want them in there to a degree, so play with this a little bit, right? The attack really is going to smooth it out. A lot of times just raising the release on both is what you need. Again, I'll turn the attack off and we'll leave the release high, and we'll see how it sounds and go from there. Still a little bit. If we turn it, you can really hear it if we turn it down. Yeah, we don't want that, right? Turn the release up a little bit. And just the attack there on part B, and we're fine. So that's sounding pretty good there, right? Now, as far as processing this, it's fairly simple. I'm going to add some distortion to it, right? With our favorite friend here, the Decapitator from Soundtoys. It's my favorite saturator. Very easy to use, and you know, let's just add a very simple preset on here just to get it there. We'll go bass and we'll go beefy, and we'll play it without, and then I'll add this in and we'll give it a listen with some saturation and distortion on there. Ooh, that sounds good. Without and with. Good. Any saturator will work, your stock saturator or your favorite one. Like I said, I like this Soundtoys Decapitator, right? Now let's look at adding one more thing. The wonderful and fantastic OTT. We're going to pull back on the amount knob and boost the lows and the mids here and increase the time a little bit. But let's listen without the OTT, and then we will add it in. It's without, with. This is getting good. So there you go. That is a absolutely fantastic sub bass that we created in just a few minutes. Basic stuff on there, right? A little bit of filtering through the synth and silent. We used a little bit of saturation to get some distortion in there, and you can play with that. You can add a bunch more depending on what you're wanting to do with it. Again, just using your drive knob. If you need help learning how saturators and stuff work, you can watch our video on saturation. And then some OTT, and that's it. You have a very good, basic, serviceable sub bass that you can now get pretty creative with. Right, you can layer it, you can add it to some really cool presets that you have in some sound banks. You can put some razzle dazzle on it, and that's it. It's simple. No more going through tons and tons of samples trying to find that perfect one. No more sitting there trying to layer all kinds of ones from sound banks and just getting lost in the shuffle and in the mud. Just create your own. It's not hard. It's very simple. Have fun with this. If you have any feedback for us, let us know in the comments. If you have any cool sub bass tricks that you have, put them in the comments and let us know. I'd love to hear them, right? I love sub bass. Anything I can do to make sub bass better, let me know. I want to know your tricks. Follow us on all the social media stuff at Mark and Adam Beat. The website's markandadam.com, Spotify Mark and Adam. Check out some of our songs. Check out our song Night, which this bass layer is featured in. And thank you so much for all the support. Make sure you like and subscribe. That really helps us out a lot. We will continue to make some what we feel is quality content for you as you are on your music journey just like we are. Thank you very much, and we will see you soon.